Here we go. You are live.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Hello,
live.
hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are right now. Thank you for joining this session. And it's yeah, can you hear me? Can okay. Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in right now. Thank you for joining this session. And it's really heartening to hear from the first speaker, even though that I can't really hear what she's trying to say, right? So I think what I hear from the first speaker that the European authority is tapping through a legal proceeding, regulation to clamp down on anti-counterfeit activities. So as an additional effort to reinforce it, we see a need to have a successful proven technology to enhance the fight against fake products. So I'm Raymond Thiel from iSpring Innovation. Today, I would like to share with you these proven technologies on how it actually assign a unique encrypted product identity and how it can support a one-stop anti-counterfeit track and trace ecosystem. I think more of us here have understood the impact of the counterfeit goods on businesses and on consumer. So in the past, we know that the product has always been counterfeited will be more the high-end brand, high-value products like Rolex watches, expensive bag, premium wine. So, however, over the years, at what this South China Morning Post indicated in these articles, that nowadays any product with a logo is a target of the counterfeiters. Thus, as long you have a product that is hot selling, especially in the fast-moving consumer goods, there is a very high possibility it shall be the target of the counterfeiters. So every day, now and then, we see news of counterfeits sites globally. Products from condiment, fashion, cosmetic, infant milk care powder, alcohol, medicine, and more all have been counterfeited easily. So based on this, the statistics report from this slide that I can show, they can see right now most of the highest product that are being attacked by these pirates are more on from the governments. It's almost coming to 26.3 billion of euro money, right? Now, of course, we have the pharmaceutical at 10.2 billion euro money. And we anticipate that this pharmaceutical should be spiking up very soon. As we know now, we have more news on the COVID-19 vaccines that is developing out. So it's something what we can do, to stop this counterfeit activities from so-called corrupting the market. So I think in the present market, there are several solutions available to help to fight counterfeits. Some solutions focus much on the packaging design, like using some very fanciful hologram, tamper-proof stickers, high security ink, invisible inks. So definitely, I'm not saying that all this kind of solution is no good. So it did serve a purpose of creating a different visually aids to the consumer to identify whether the product is real or fake. But however, consumer like you and me, when we are in the supermarket, now we would not have the knowledge to actually to differentiate it. Especially nowadays, counterfeiters are even more skillful in coming up with the more advanced hologram ink, invisible ink technologies that they can even do much better than the generic products. So I believe all you are familiar with QR code, right? So nowadays, a lot of manufacturer brand owner like to use a QR code to actually allow the consumer to scan it and can bring them to a brand owner URL link and telling them that if they can go to URL link, that is the real products. So and what I can tell you, so a generic QR code may not be secure. And in fact, a counterfeiters can easily duplicate the generic QR code. So with this technologies advancement, right, we are trying to tap on the technologies and how to see we can actually make the anti-counterfeit more secure and easy for the brand owners and the consumer to do the authentication. So what do we do? Right, we are trying to actually marry a so-called a unique encrypted ID to each individual products. So how it works? So basically, I think it's something like a IoT. You know, the Internet of Things right now is one of the highest interest technologies topics. So as what you can see right now, I'm holding this piece of IoT board. It's actually one of our collaboration with the partners in terms of trying to come up with a solution. We call it the IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things. So this IoT box is not so much on to prevent counterfeits, but it's actually to tell you, to tell the so-called the customer and large or whoever user that's using the equipment, the health status of the equipment, whether it is in functionable, whether it's in the correct battery level, or it's more on the so-called the status reporting of the equipment, not much on anti-counterfeits. So if you were to see a normal fast-moving consumer products, like what I'm holding on is a one a customer, it's a soy sauce product, right? Yeah, I'm trying to use this IoT board to actually brand it onto the packaging of this bottle. You can see that it is definitely not possible. Why? Because the board is so big and there's no way we can actually place it onto the packaging. So what can we actually do to let the products to talk to the perform, so as we can tell the consumer, even the manufacturer, what is happening on the product that's going out in the market. So depend on the packaging design, the product that we want to actually to place a unique encrypted ID onto it. So we have a different type of tags. We call it the NFC tag. We have a RFID tag. We have the 1D barcode. We have a QR code. So it really depends on to the nature, the design of the packaging before we can actually decide to deploy which of the tag to each individual products. So what do we do next? Definitely is that we want to place a unique encrypted ID numbers into all these individual tags. So as when that unique ID tag has been moved out from the factory to the consumer at large, we can easily do the anti-counterfeit solution, such as the brand protection, when consumer can use a smartphone to scan on the unique ID code or the QR code. And there we are actually deploying using a dual layer concept in such a way that once the unique code has been successfully authenticated, that will be actually allow the consumer to actually own the ownership of this unique code ID. So meaning the bottle can be 100% prevent anti-counterfeits. We can also do a track and trace as when the product is actually moving out from the warehouse by air, by land, or by train, by sea. Now we want to ensure that the destination that is being designed from point A to point B is actually in plan and it's not getting out of the way. And with the consumer at large that's doing the scanning, there is actually what we can get all these kind of data to do analysis. So this kind of data analysis is actually depend on what the consumer want to use it. Can be used for the supply chain logistic, can be used for the marketing, or for the sales. So that is become a very useful information for all this data to come back to the brand owner as a big data for their analysis. And of course, lastly, we can actually create a mobile app to actually allow the app user, just before they do the authentication or the code, they can actually key in their information. Of course, it's in compliance with GDPR, with the information that we can get, from the such as the email of the address of the consumer, the gender, or even some phone number if possible. So with all this kind of information that we receive it, we can actually start to actually have the kind of engagement with the consumer when we want to do some new product launch or even some product recall, right? So there's many ways we can get all this big data to come back and benefit the manufacturers. So just now, as I mentioned, for the product to be able to actually allow the consumer to actually to scan and to see the authenticity of the product. So we actually deploy many tech to do it: NFC, RFID, 1D barcode, or QR code. So it's actually really depend on the application need and how's the packaging design of each product they want to do. So as I can say that unfortunately, I think all this kind of a barcode, QR code, even if you have the encrypted unique ID, there is still a very high chance that the counterfeiter can copy it easily, right? So to counter this, iSpring Innovation, we have our own patent pending, of course, on what I call the clone-proof QR code. In our standard business world, we call it the AR code. What's so special about this clone-proof QR code? In fact, it is still a QR code. It's just that inside this QR code, we embedded in with some very high security watermark. So with this high security watermark that is being printed on the January QR code, the position of that watermark is so precise. There is no way that actually can anybody go and clone it and still remain the precise position of the watermark they've been printed on. So we have this our own AI intelligence system in the platform to actually to assign a so-called algorithm to actually to read the watermark. And of course, beside the watermark, we also look at the visibility, the density of the watermark to make sure that the original code is really cannot be copied by these pirates. Let me show you this simple illustration. So on that January AR code or proof QR code that we created, our AI algorithm will actually, based on that precise landmark of the each watermark, and there will be a so-called a threshold percentage to actually to benchmark it as it's make sure that it's the real this clone-proof QR code. So on that threshold, normally we will assign it to be at least 90 to 98%. So if anybody will use a smartphone using the app to read the clone-proof QR code, so it will actually prompt with a message through my AI system, whereby they will do a comparison that is correct. The threshold is actually 90 to 98%. So in this case, it's a real and genuine clone-proof QR code. So if anybody will try to copy this clone-proof QR code, when we actually clone it and we reprint again, the watermark will be actually moving somewhere to the left, to the right, or a bit up or a bit down. And of course, the density, the contrast of this watermark will be affected. So in this case, our algorithm in our system will be able to actually read this clone-proof QR code where somebody try to copy it. That threshold percentage will actually fall below 90%. And in this case, straight away, we know this is a copy. The pirates so-called trying to copy this clone-proof QR code, and it cannot be authenticated as real. So what actually, we have few of the upcoming challenge and requirement from the clients, especially when right now we're talking about blockchain. Blockchain, as you know, is actually happen started in this cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrency is basically a virtual product. So it's very useful for blockchain to actually to protect all these kind of virtual products, to make sure that each individual investor, when they have the key to go into this blockchain system, and they can start to do the transaction anywhere, okay, in the world, they can do it easily. And of course, all this kind of blockchain system is immutable. There's no way you can breach through it. So blockchain, a lot of clients nowadays have been asking, is there any way we can use the blockchain as a concept for anti-counterfeit solution? Unfortunately, we heard a lot of brand protection solution using the blockchain to actually do it as an anti-counterfeit so-called a tool solution, which I can actually assure you a standard blockchain that happen in the cryptocurrency cannot work in the physical product. Why is it so? Because the blockchain unit numbers, it may be actually placed on the genuine products. It can be still easily cloned by a counterfeiter to actually to fake it as the real blockchain unit number and go into the supply chain and pass it on as like a genuine products. So in this case, Ancestral, we do have a blockchain, and that blockchain is actually being redefined, reinforced with an additional layer. That's what we just now mentioned on the unique authenticate, so-called unique encrypted ID code, plus the cone-proof QR code technologies. So in this way, we are actually providing another layer of protection above a blockchain. So this is workable. As you know, another challenge that we face, and in fact, there's a high demand in the market at the moment due to the pandemic concern. We are actually getting a lot of clients that they have to actually close down their retail store. Why? Because there's nobody is able to go physically to the retail store to do shopping. So there is a very high end this requirement on the e-commerce system. E-commerce is booming, and also the product is right now is selling online. If you were to ask me, e-commerce platform supplier or even the provider, can they actually prevent anti-counterfeit so-called solution to the buyer? Right. What I can tell you is e-commerce platform supplier can only assure you that they don't allow any pirate goods to be selling in their platform, but there is no way they can actually prevent it. So in iSpring, on Ancestral, we actually still depend very much at the moment that the brand owners still have to take the initiative to make sure that they have this kind of unique encrypted code to be actually placed onto each product. So by doing so, we can actually allow the e-commerce platform supplier to allow them to actually buy with our unique code from their e-commerce transaction number. So by doing so, any buyer that shop online in the e-commerce platform, by using a smartphone to shine onto the e-commerce so-called reference checking numbers, they can indirectly actually deploy our Ancestral solution to make sure that the product that they purchase is real and not fake. So in the conclusion on just now what I mentioned, right? So we are actually assigning a product unique authentication code that is placed in our platform, and we can actually allow the brand owner to decide on what kind of tag they want to place it onto their products. And we can actually live it or non-live it. It depends on the application requirement, and waiting in the warehouse for the logistic and supply chains to pick it up. So we can even track using the access rail from point A to point B to make sure that it reached rightfully in the correct planned route from A to B. There is no so-called pirate activity trying to come in. So once that unique ID that being placed in the each product is being activated, maybe in the retail store or in the e-commerce, right? So it's being protected. And when it go to the consumer at large, buyer from the go into the e-platform, the e-commerce platform to do the purchase, they can actually easily use a smartphone to start to actually scan the barcode to do the authentication. So in this way, this is being protected. So what I'm trying to say that the data that it come back to the manufacturer is going to be very, very useful. That's why we call it the data is king. So how it can actually help the business, right? So in this one of the scenario, we can actually allow the brand owner to let him know. Let's say in the country, in Italy, for example, they have 4 stores that is promoting their product. So with these scanning activities by the consumer at large, the brand owner will be able to know, out of these 4 stores, 3 is selling very good. There's 1 store that's not selling that fantastic with the sales number. So straight away they can zoom in to that non-performing store and to actually study to see what is actually happening. To prevent it. So we do have also the data can come back to become a marketing campaign evaluation. So that marketing campaign evaluation can depend on actually what the so-called the brand owner want to engage with this buyer customer at large. Say for example, he want to actually do a promotion. They want to do a promotion in such a way that the more the client buy, the more points they can actually gain, and that will actually excite them to actually to support more on the product. So different campaign each month for the brand owner. When customer doing the scanning, they can actually get all this data to feedback to it, become a very effective marketing tool for them. Inventory management, definitely, as we know in the market right now, when customer is doing the scanning, so they will be able to actually prevent the issue of overstocking or understocking. So with this kind of data that come back to them, so they will know how to actually to have a just-in-time so-called inventory to support to the markets and when the actually products in the market is selling out. Of course, we also can do a consumer profile engagement using the mobile app, whereby the clients actually can actually so-called key in the information of what they want to interact with, either by emails or by phone numbers. And of course, we can actually push a promotional message to this consumer at large. And of course, we can also have this kind of product and trade and trace. And one of the very so-called realistic solution that we actually request from customer is more on the product recall. So when we have a product recall, we don't actually need to get all the product back to the factory. So we can actually, by actually getting all this kind of data, whoever scan that's having the problematic product, we can actually use the app to actually to inform the consumer to return the problematic product, and straight away we can actually do a more efficiency in terms of product recall so-called application. Sorry, I was being so that my screen had freeze. Let me actually do a refresh.